The destination returned. Then the car radio switched on by itself. Static filled the vehicle. A woman's voice whispered through the speakers. "Turn around." David turned the radio off. It came back on. "Turn around." Lily began crying. "Don't listen." Suddenly, something slammed against the roof. Bang! Then again. Bang! David accelerated. The sound followed them. Bang! 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 Lily looked through the rear window. Nothing was there. Then she looked at the side mirror. The woman in the red coat was running beside the car. Impossible. The car was moving nearly 80 miles per hour. Her head suddenly snapped toward Lily. She smiled. Then disappeared. The radio turned on one final time. The woman's voice whispered, "You already passed my grave." David looked ahead. A road sign appeared. Miller Road, 1 mile. He immediately turned around. But behind them, there was no highway anymore. Only a cemetery. Hundreds of old gravestones surrounded the car. David slammed on the brakes. Lily screamed. A figure stood in front of the headlights. The woman in the red coat. She slowly raised her hand and pointed toward the back seat. David and Lily turned. Written across the rear window in wet fingerprints were 4 words. "I never left the car." The next morning, police found David's car abandoned beside the highway. Both doors were open. David and Lily were never found. But inside the vehicle, investigators discovered a photograph. It showed the same woman in the red coat. The date on the photograph was 1986. Standing beside her was David. And behind them was Lily. Both were smiling. Neither had been born yet.
Story number 2.
The damp chill of the Himalayan fog clung to the decaying wood of the abandoned bungalow. The locals called it the Whispering Estate, a place cursed by a century-old tragedy. Legend said that anyone who stepped inside after midnight would hear their own voice calling to them from the dark, and if they answered, they would never return. Julian, a skeptical urban explorer armed with only a flashlight and a camera, grinned as he pushed the heavy oak door open. The hinges groaned, breaking decades of silence. Dust motes danced in the beam of his light as he stepped onto the warped floorboards. "Is anyone here?" he whispered, half joking. Silence answered. But as he crept deeper into the grand hallway, the air turned unnaturally cold. His breath bloomed into pale clouds. He pointed his camera toward the grand staircase, snapping photos of the rotting velvet banners hanging from the ceiling. Then, he heard it. "Julian." He froze. The sound was faint, a raspy breath coming from the top of the stairs. It wasn't just a voice, it was his voice. His heart hammered against his ribs. "Who's there?" he demanded, his confidence evaporating. "Julian, come upstairs," the shadow voice repeated, perfectly matching his tone, his cadence, his panic. Trembling, Julian raised his flashlight toward the second-floor balcony. The beam illuminated a tall figure standing in the darkness. As the light hit the face, Julian dropped his camera. The plastic shattered against the floor. Standing at the top of the stairs was Julian himself. Except this version's eyes were hollow sockets dripping with thick, dark liquid. Its skin was pale and stretched tight over its bones. The creature smiled, a terrifying, impossible grin that stretched from ear to ear, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. Before Julian could scream, the thing didn't run down the stairs, it slid down at unnatural speed, its limbs bending backward with sickening cracks. Julian turned to bolt for the door, but it slammed shut in his face. The lock clicked on its own. Cold, wet fingers wrapped around his throat from behind. The breath against his ear smelled of soil and decay. "Thank you for the new voice," his own voice whispered into his ear. The next morning, local authorities found Julian's broken camera near the front steps. The memory card contained only one video, a slow walk up the stairs, ending with a view of a dark hallway, followed by a terrifying, inhuman laugh in Julian's voice. Julian was never seen again.
Story number 3.
The torrential rain beat violently against the windshield as Mark pulled his tow truck onto the muddy shoulder of Route 9. It was 2 a.m. A dispatch call had come through about a stranded sedan near the edge of Blackwood Forest, a stretch of highway notorious for dead cell zones and sudden fog. When Mark stepped out, the rain felt like ice against his skin. A few yards ahead sat a rusted 1990s Honda, its hazard lights blinking dimly in the dark. He walked up to the driver's side and knocked on the wet glass. "Tow service. You okay in there?" The driver's window rolled down an inch with a screech of rusted metal. Inside, a man sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead at the tree line. His face was unnaturally pale, and his skin looked tight, almost like stretched wax. "My tire is blown," the driver said. His voice was flat, devoid of any pitch or emotion. "Can you check the rear right?" Mark nodded, pulling a flashlight from his belt. "Sure thing. Just sit tight." He walked to the back of the car. The beam of his flashlight hit the rear right tire. It was completely fine. In fact, all 4 tires were fully inflated and brand new. Confused, Mark shone the flashlight into the backseat window to check for spare tools. His blood ran cold. Lying in the back seat was a body wrapped in a blue tarp. Sticking out from the top was a human head. As the beam of light illuminated the face, Mark's breath caught in his throat. The face under the tarp belonged to the man sitting in the driver's seat. His eyes were wide open, glazed over, and cold in death. Mark slammed his back against the side of the car, his heart pounding violently. Slowly, the driver's side door clicked open. The driver stepped out into the rain. His neck snapped to the side with an audible crack, his head tilting at a sickening, impossible angle. He didn't walk, he glided toward Mark, his legs stiff and motionless beneath his coat. "You weren't supposed to look in the back," the thing said. "It's..." Mouth didn't move, but the words echoed directly inside Mark's head. Mark dropped his flashlight and sprinted toward his tow truck. Behind him, he heard the heavy, wet thuds of something running on all 4s, closing the distance at an impossible speed. He scrambled into the cab, slammed the door shut, and locked it just as a pale, bloodless hand slammed against the driver's side window, cracking the heavy glass. Mark shoved the truck into drive and floored the accelerator, the engine roaring as the vehicle lurched forward into the night. When state troopers searched Route 9 the following morning, they found no rusted sedan, no tire tracks, and no body. But etched deep into the outer metal of Mark's tow truck door were 5 deep, gouged grooves, as if carved by human fingernails made of steel.